All right, people. Let's do this. Got my notes here, just in case you see me looking down. Want to do my best not to forget anything, but let's get at it. Where are we right now? Big, huge question mark, right? Nobody knows. So let's break it down. What can you do to set yourself up and try to mitigate any losses? I 100% teach people that, first of all, you don't want to over leverage and you don't want to have a mortgage payment that's too high. But on top of that, it's two very, very important things that I hope you've been doing. One, debt control. Guys, you have to change your lifestyle and budget so that, first of all, you need to know how much you're spending every month, how much you're making every month. And if you're spending more than you're making, that's a losing game. You got to be making more than you're spending and figure it out. If you're not making enough, find a way to make more. If you can't make more, you got to spend less. Only way to get ahead. Only way. Got to do it. Next thing, save. That is why you got to make more than you spend so that you can put yourself in a position to save. Now, that might be paying off high interest debt. That's important because if you have high interest debt, you're getting more and more in the hole every month. Pay that off, then go into savings. Start with $1,000. $1,000 emergency fund will do a tremendous amount for you in times like this. Right now, how many people are just hoping that the government is going to assist them so that they can make it to next month? That is not a position you want to be in for the rest of your life. I don't. I've been saving for times like this so that me and my family don't struggle and we're not stressed out during these times. You don't want to live like that. Start understanding your budget. Start understanding your debt so you can save for times of emergency. After you have your $1,000 debt, obviously you want to keep progressing. You want to have 3 months of all your expenses in savings. Then eventually get to your 6 months so that you're protected just in case you lose your job, which is very likely to happen, not to everybody, but unemployment is going to go up. People are going to lose their jobs and therefore aren't going to be able to pay their bills. So I did hear today that the government is sending out about $1,200 to people who make under $75,000. So they are helping. And this is where the government assistance can really start helping us from crashing into a great recession or anything crazy. The government is, this is the last thing they want is for the market to crash. And so ever since we got off the gold standard, what do they do in times like this? In times of crisis, they pump money into the system. Now, what is that ultimately going to do? It's going to make your dollar, that $1 bill, worth less. That's called inflation. Pump money into the system, prices go up, things cost more, your dollar is worth less. Which is why people usually use real estate to hedge for inflation. Because your house rent pretty much always goes up. Materials, the cost to build homes, pretty much always go up. Your house pretty much over a long period of time goes up. With dips, some big, some small, eventually over a long period of time, it goes up. Which is why I only teach long-term investing. Because when you are flipping or you're trying to time the market, you lose. Over a long period of time, you win. Over a short period of time, you can win, you can lose, flip of a coin, even the best lose. So if you're not the best, don't do it. If you're the best, well, as long as you have a savings or something to fall back on, then maybe do it. So with the government pumping in, the Fed's pumping money into the system, right? What they're trying to do is they're trying to keep money flowing. They're trying to keep banks lending. What we have today is a lot different than in '08. '08, the fundamentals were very screwed up. It's been a lot of changes. It is a lot better now, which is why we were crushing it for a while. We've had it so good for about 11 years now. It was probably about time for a correction, and this all happened reminiscent of 9/11. That put us into a recession. And if you think back of it, what is a recession technically? Technically, a recession is when our GDP goes negative for more than one quarter, which is basically 2 quarters, which is 6 months. So 6 months of our GDP going down is considered a recession. So when 9/11 hit, we were in a recession, and that lasted about 8 months or so. And real estate actually went up because the stock market crashed and people put their money into real estate. So the stock market doesn't control real estate, but a lot of times, or the economy, but a lot of times it's backwards. Real estate can affect the economy and can affect the stock market. But it's not a perfect correlation. It's more factors that go into it. Another thing, the Fed's dropped interest rates down to practically zero. Same thing. They want to keep money flowing. If they can keep people spending money, then it's going to keep the economy moving. It's going to soften the blow. The Fed also wants to give you a reason not to hoard your money. If interest rates are high, you just put your money in the bank and you get good interest off just sitting there. It's going to promote that. They want to keep the money moving. So therefore, if they offer super low interest rates, you're going to take it out of savings and put it somewhere else where it can make more money. So that also keeps things going. So with that being said, inflation, it's going to go up because we're pumping money. It's called quantitative easing, something that's fairly common. They did it during the Obama era. It pretty much worked. They bailed out the banks and things started crawling back, and we've had 11 years of bliss if you're an investor. Just extraordinary gains. Now, we might have a temporary pause in that. It might go back and it might dip a little bit. What is that? That is an opportunity. If you have saved and controlled your debt, now is an opportunity to make some money. But I advocate to always buy real estate. And that is because if you don't own a house and you rent, it never doesn't make sense to pay yourself and not pay the landlord's mortgage. You gotta pay your own mortgage down, so you're paying yourself. It's like a forced bank account. It's a forced savings account for retirement. No brainer. If you're an investor and you're buying houses and you go with the buy and hold strategy where you're getting income, it's income producing property, it always makes sense because you're not going after the equity. Mainly, you're going over the income that it's providing. So if it's providing income, because rents rarely go down, it always makes sense in any market. And if you're buying a house to live in, you're not trying to time these ups and downs. You don't care if it goes down temporarily for whether it be 8 months, a year, or even 5 years, because you're living in it for a good 10 years or so. And then it's very likely to go up during that amount of time. So don't stress yourself out about the volatility in between. It's all about the end game. That's why I so strongly promote the thinking long term when you invest. The point is to put yourself in a position that you never have to sell. If you never have to sell, you can always wait it out until you make a good profit. How do you do that? You have a mortgage payment that you can handle so you don't buy too much, so you're not house poor. And just in case, the worst case scenario, and you lose your job, you have a savings and you don't have too many bills that you can't pay them. You know, diversification in your portfolio is also important. Many times when I invest in cash flow, which is buy and hold. And then other properties, I invest more in the equity. So you have a diversification of equity, cash flow, risk, because everything has risk. And as people are finding right now who are thinking, oh, is it too risky to buy or sell? They're finding out now that it was also risky not to make a decision. So sellers that were on the fence because they weren't sure if it was the right time, it might go up. You can't think about all that. You have to think, what position are you in? Have you made a good amount of money? And what are you going to do with that money when you're done with it? Is it going to be your emergency fund? Is it going to be your nest egg? Are you going to reinvest it into something else? Are you going to leverage it out into multiple investments so you can take a house with a lot of equity and then diversify it into cash flow and equity for the future? So here's some tips, guys. As we're moving into a possible recession, here's some rules to think about to prepare yourself. 1, start saving cash. For some of you, it might be too late. If you lose your job in the next month, probably too late. But still start thinking about it because you'll find another job. One thing that people can never take away from you is work ethic. You'll find another job if you have a work ethic and a skill. Get a skill. Get something that people will pay you for so that you can always find another job and then start saving. Start reducing debt. Number 1. Just in case credit tightens a little bit, start opening up your credit lines now if you're going to invest with it. So if you do want to have tap into your line of credit and your equity in your house or other loans that could give you some movement, that can give you some leverage, you got to open them up now so that you have them just in case lending tightens up. Here is what's important, guys. HELOCs, which are home equity line of credits, and loans like adjustable rate mortgages got a really bad name because people didn't use them responsibly. They took out a line of credit, they bought a boat or a bunch of new cars or renovated their house to the nines and basically used their money to just show off. And then they were over leveraged, couldn't make the new payments, the adjustable rate kicked in or whatnot, and they couldn't pay it. They foreclosed, lost their house. If you're going to use these strategies, you got to be very thoughtful about them. If you're going to use an adjustable rate mortgage, right, you need to understand how they work. In this climate, I think it could be really good because I don't see the Feds changing rates for a long time. But a lot of times they will mature or you'll have a balloon payment after 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. What kind of market are we going to be in when they mature? And can you refinance out of those loans? Because that's the most important thing is you're getting this good rate. You're paying small payments on this money that you can use to buy things that are creating more wealth for you or more cash flow. But can you refinance out of them when rates start going back up? These are the things you have to think about, and they can be very powerful. But if you don't use them really thoughtfully, they can get you into trouble. I know a lot of people have made this stuff sound scary, and if you don't understand it, don't use it. But start understanding the tools that are at your disposal. 3, hey, if things slow down and you're just going to put things on hold, start building up your credit. Start making the moves. Talk to a lender. Talk to somebody who understands credit. Don't DIY it. Don't just Google it. Talk to people in the business that can tell you how to build your credit. And if you're smart about it, get a credit card if you're young, because if you have no credit, you need to build that credit. You can have bad credit. You can have no credit. If you have bad credit, you got to start fixing things. And if you have no credit, the easiest way is to get a credit card. Once again, these are tools. You got to know how to use the tools, right? So a credit card in someone's hand who doesn't understand how to use it is just debt. They're just going to get piled with debt because they don't understand how it works. You have to pay off everything at the end of the month. And the myth of saying you can't pay it off at the end of the month, it's not going to build your credit, is not true. Use it, pay it off at the end of the month. Do not use it if you don't have the cash to pay off at the end of the month. But like I was saying, uh, who says this? Gary Vee says this. A basketball in my hands are absolutely worthless. But in LeBron's $20-30 million a year, you got to understand how to use the tools or else they're worthless to you. If you have a property that ended up being a bad investment, like it's going down in value or it's not cash flowing and you're losing money, you can't chase the bottom. You have to get in front of it. So just unload it. You want to get rid of it. You don't want to hang on to it forever. A bad property is a bad property. Cut your losses, learn your lessons, lick your wounds, and move on. You'll get better at it, I promise you. Not all my deals have been good. I've learned along the way, and that's created a skill to where now I know how to assess properties and make better choices, better decisions, better investments. The goal here is financial freedom, right? It's a long-term thinking. There's macro thinking and there's micro thinking. Micro thinking is when you're impatient and you have to make money right now. Take a bird's eye view, and everything that's happening right now emotionally is affecting you way more than it will have in a year from now. You're going to look back and see, it wasn't as bad as it seemed. Same thing with investments, right? If the tenant doesn't pay or you're just trying to figure things out right now, when you look at it from like a 30-year, 20-year, 15-year, 10-year overview, it's really a lot less than you think it is. It's not as harsh. It's just emotional because we're in the thick of it right now. So we're just got to work through it, and it's going to work itself out. So just remember the fundamentals. You need to be smart about your payments. You need to be smart about your debt. You need to save money. And you need to have a good work ethic. Those will get you through everything. Think long term. Think patient. That's how you'll build true net worth, true financial freedom. This is just a blip. It's potentially some great opportunity. There's risk in everything you do. There's risk in everything you don't do. We'll keep an eye on the jobs. We'll keep an eye on statistics. A great analogy that I heard from Bigger Pockets was life's like a poker game. Poker game is really symbolic of your life because you never know what hand you're going to get. And the smaller your stack gets, the least you want to risk. But the bigger your stack, which is your savings, the more you're willing to risk. And the more risk you're willing to put out there, the more reward you're going to get when you win the pot. But just because you start off with a good hand doesn't mean you're going to end with a good hand. Just because it looks like you're going to win that hand, another card might come out that changes everything. And how are you going to react to that new card? Let me tell you, no matter what card comes out, it's just one hand. You got a whole game to play. And depending on how you play it, you can still win.